welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. For this infotainment, yes, I do call it that. It has some valuable information and entertainment. And if you don't like it, so be it. And well, I'm going to say the person's name and let's not make any stupid, corny jokes that he's related to someone who owns a cereal company. Stuart Kellogg, okay?
But I am.
This. Oh,
First surprise. I know your audience likes surprises. You like surprises. I didn't tell you ahead of time. It's a distant relation. Like I say, I'm related, but not close enough to do me any good. About a fifth great uncle going down that side. Yeah, directly related.
Oh, yeah.
To the Kellogg.
So you gotta be like number one, number two, yeah. After like 3, 4, 5, yeah.
Sorry,
it's like who cares? Yeah, you might as well not be related.
Well, come on, I gotta carry that. In fact, if I could tell you a little story, I'm jumping right in. But my daughter happened to be Miss Mississippi back in 2003, and she was getting ready to go to Atlantic City. And we got in touch with the Kellogg company and we said, hey, can we get permission? And they allowed us to put her picture on a Special K cereal box with the crown and all. So there you go. So that's one way we've used it.
And, I'm not even against it. If I was, related to even something like that, Nepo babies, I won't even mind. Look, I'm hating that. I'm not even a Nepo baby. God, you made a mistake there. No, I'm kidding. He got a defined purpose, even though I don't understand it half the time. Okay. Let me just be serious now. But, hey, that's a fun little fact. I mean, we kicked off right away. I don't mind it. We do little surprises, a little off the rails, and then we recover it somehow. So that's growth of your hopes. Amen to that. So, I mean, hey, you know what? That can replace the monologue, and I'm fine with that. A surprise little fact. Yeah, I mean, that monologue thing was just a little filler time, a little introduction. Yeah, so the thing is, he's not going to be talking about cereal, okay?
No.
Spoiler alert.
Correct.
So, he's a distant relative to the royal blood of the Kellogg. We have to say it like that, what? But I mean, Kellogg's not the most unhealthy cereal. I was trying to say, I would say it's pretty darn good for you. So if you want good breakfast, eat that. There you go. Shameless plug-in. Irrelevant shameless plug-in. I do encourage that a lot. Let's get to the real stuff. Basic fundamental question. What do you want the listeners and the viewers to know about?
Well, I know your audience is a great variety, which is one of the things that intrigued me when I reached out. I'm a retired TV guy, broadcast guy, was on air and then in management, and went to seminary while I was running the station, and am involved in Christian ministry since retiring in my latest project, Students in Action, Building Pro-Life Leaders. It's about the pro-life movement, and it's one of the, if you will, third rails out there. Gets a lot of people talking. It is, Elias, I don't know if you'll agree with me, I call it a political loser, and we can see, number one, you got about 3/4 of American adults believe abortion should be legal at some point. So a vast majority. And we've gone from two parties. One, as John Stonestreet, as the Colson Center puts it so well, we went from a pro-choice, pro-life, two-party choice, and now it's a pro-abortion, pro-choice, two-party choices. The Republican used to be, they're not anymore. They're running from it. So it's a political loser, but I think it's important enough to talk about because we're talking about the most vulnerable. And I think it's important that the young learn about it, which is part of a project that I put together for them to do so.
Absolutely. And I, sadly, if you talk about the political perspective of being pro-life, I tend to agree. And it's unfortunate. And I think this adds it to the American, without the migrants, we would have been in decline. We would have been losing people without the migrants. Migrants, just to add this real quick, they're the only ones that's sustaining population.
We are below replacement rate. That's correct. In America, we are below replacement rate, which is very scary.
That's so the demographics are changing, whether you like it or not. And that's a fact. I don't care you lean left or right. These are just hardcore facts. And, I try to form my opinion based on facts, not the other way around. Have my opinion and then have the facts back it up and then reject the facts that contradict it. That's echo chambers, that nonsense. No. And there's times I have to deal with, okay, I'm wrong. modifications need to be made, and that's part of being human. You don't stay the same. Unless, I don't know, you want to act like you're 80, but yet you're trying to scream like a 20-year-old child. Okay, you want to keep doing that? I mean, I think your vocal cords will fall out at that point. I mean, you want to keep staying stagnant or the same? To me, that's nonsense. Evolution is part of the human progress. All right. So you already got to my first question about pro-life being a political loser. Yeah. And just to add to that, ironically, ever since Roe v. Wade's been overturned, they already said 35% supported it. Sadly, the impacts are now showing it in hardcore data that more abortions have been happening. And some of it, I would say, it's dangerous without, the proper clinical supervision and the pills. And I have to just cite this one article. It's more of a video article by the New York Times about this anonymous woman who took the abortion pill. She went through a lot of side effects, insane side effects. That if abortion was done in the clinic, I mean, I'm sure there are side effects as well, but this one was just, she felt like it was like a lava boiling inside of her.
Yes.
They had an artwork up for that, and it was just,
scary.
Yeah.
And I'll give credit for the New York Times to write that, because that's not the kind of story they normally would write. They're very biased, extremely biased against the pro-life movement, but that's a fact. And I'll give you, and as you mentioned, it's gone up since Roe was overturned. In 2023, we crossed again the 1 million abortions, and it went up again last year, 2024. It'll be up again this year. And these are documented. And what we have now is do-it-yourself abortions at home. And it's a 2-pill regimen that you're talking about. The Biden administration took away almost every restriction. You used to have to be under a doctor's care. You don't. You're supposed to have a prescription. You can even get it in the mail. I've seen it. People have gotten it in the mail. It comes from India and through the mail, and people are doing it at home. And and I just want to share, since you brought it up, and thank you for that. There's an Ethics and Public Policy Center. It's a group that they took over 800,000 insurance claims for people who took the 2-pill regimen, all right, between 2017, 2023, 800,000, and they looked through the data. And what they found is 1 out of 7 didn't work, which is a high failure rate. The other is that 11% had serious adverse side effects. 11%. You know what the FDA officially says the side effects is? 0.5. So when they looked at the data, it's 22 times more severe than the FDA. And in fact, the FDA no longer tracks side effects except for death. I mean, it is so we talk about politics everywhere. It was such a drive to allow these, and I thought they cared about the woman. And this is a very dangerous part. So that's one of the reasons the abortions are going up. But a bigger reason is we are in a culture of death. I don't think people understand. They have been so inoculated against this idea of choice, and they forget to think about, what are we talking about? It's a human being. It's a human being. Let's have that discussion. And you can't even have that discussion in so many places. And that's the scary part, which is why this project that I put together is to help students, high school and college age students, learn about not just what abortion is and how to engage, but also what a worldview is, how to look at the world from, yes, a biblical perspective, and the value of life, and how that plays out in the abortion debate, because we don't even have that debate, because too often we're not even focusing on what we're talking about, which is a human being from the moment of conception. That is a scientific fact. You like the term follow the science? Remember that? Follow the science. Once you have a zygote, once you have the sperm and the egg come together, that is a human being with DNA that will be the same when that person is 90 years old. So I get a little emotional on this, but I think what you brought up is this great point of saying, wait a second, this is being done at home, and it's dangerous, obviously, to the babies, but to the mothers as well.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And I just did the little math because I'm not a math major. People, 1 out of 7 is 14%, and FDA says 0.5, 0.5%. Yeah, so that's severely
now the 1 out of 7
downplaying.
is not working. The 0.5 was saying a serious adverse effect. They were saying 0.5% of the people who take it. Well, they looked at the data of 800,000 people who took it and said, no, 11% had serious side effects, hemorrhaging, emergency room visits, death, 22 times higher. And the FDA is saying they will look at this again, but we'll see what happens. Because again, it's a political losers. You got people on both sides of the aisle who don't want to even touch it and talk about it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. I just want to make sure I understand that. No, it's just, I agree. The Republicans don't want to talk about it. They just become silent about it because before I remember, started to become vote of age. There were Republicans that very proudly say, we are pro-life. We are pro-life. But as of now, this climate, they're just not even talking about it.
Especially where you are. I'm in Alabama. Yep. It's a red state. That's not an issue. But when you talk about the overall overarching, the national party, for example, President Trump took the pro-life out of the plane. He said, we're not having it. We're not talking about it. And so from a national perspective, that's where we are. And look, he nominated, and the Republican Senate confirmed the most pro-abortion HHS secretary in history in Robert Kennedy. The dude believes in late-term abortion to the moment of birth, and they suck him in. The world is kind of upside down. So that's why it's important to people to understand. That's why I started the project to talk about and get people to understand facts. Follow the science.
I can never stand that. That came from the Democrats and the left. I said, no, you only say that when it's convenient. To the right's credit, and I'm going to defend them a bit, I didn't hear them follow the science or anything. Someone was able to flip it upside down. But I am following science too because of ABCs. Technically so. Following science is looking at the data, make the most informed decisions based on the data instead of just lying, going by what you feel. I'm going to actually kind of attack the left on this issue of, I would say if I have to pick two camps, I say I will lean on the pro-life one. So I'm not a progressive. There you go, exposed. I am not. But, I would say for me, there is only a few exceptions. I would say if, the fetus is very deformed, or I would, and then with rape, I would say that's a bit of a debate. Other than that, I think they should carry that to term.
In the life of the mother. And that's...
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
And absolutely.
So
that's a very tough decision, but...
Yeah, and, think before you do something, people. No, this is another thing. No, think before you do something. A lot of these idiotic, catastrophic consequences can't be avoided. But you go by, I do what I want. Yeah, you could do what you want, but there's also consequences. You can't separate the two. You just cannot.
It's interesting. I was just saying on the progressive side, and I like having conversations to talk about specifics. I don't yell and scream. I get passionate, but I like to have reasoned discussions. And when I talk about things with progressives, such as Planned Parenthood, okay, I believe it is an organization. Its whole financial background is as an abortion mill. It just is. That's how they make their money. And when you see, do you know the Planned Parenthood in New York City used to be called the Margaret Sanger? Well, what we being the pro-lifers would say, they're naming it after Margaret Sanger. She was the founder, but her belief was eugenics. She believed in the bad weeds, especially black. This woman believed her thoughts are what Hitler, and that gets overused, but this is the case. Those are the thoughts that Hitler used. And they finally took the name off the Planned Parenthood building in New York City. But also, Planned Parenthood purposely targets the inner city and black neighborhoods. Blacks make up about 38% of abortions in America are blacks. And of course, that's about more than three times the percentage. New York City, I shared this with you when we were chatting ahead of time. New York City, more black babies are aborted than born. Let's talk about social justice, and does that not bother anybody? These are human beings that we're talking about. And it's, when you bring those points up, it makes it a little disturbing when folks think that way, saying, wait a second, this is destroying an entire population in areas.
Yeah, they could have been growing, having a bigger share of the population. But let me just play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Maybe it could be finances. Let's throw something in there. But like I said, this is something that, they should be responsible for, but let's just say they somehow couldn't take care of the baby.
And that's a lot. That is a fair, I will tell you that and I've looked at the research on this, the number one reason that women get abortions is lack of support. That is family support, financial support. Okay. Back in the early 80s, late 70s, when Roe went in, a lot of the argument was, yeah, you pro-lifers care about the baby until it's born. And you know what, Elias? There was some truth to that. And that's why I work at a local pregnancy center. I'm what's called a male advocate. I work with the men who come in with the women and counsel, and I teach parenting classes. Well, the pregnancy centers now, you wouldn't know it from Senator Warren and the others who scream about it. They have no idea what's going on. It is supporting these women and these families, and it's not just through. We help them. We connect them in the community. We connect them in support. We help strengthen the family. And it's all holistic and beyond, because that's the number one reason. And you're absolutely right. And I'm going to critique the church. The church is not stepping up as much as it should, because these women, and too often it's single women, and that's another issue about the importance of a married mom and dad for raising a child. But the church needs, across the board, black, white, Hispanic, evangelical. I'm not talking about, not pointing fingers at the main line or the others. They need to do more on this way, because that's part of it. Saying, wait a second, there's a hurt. So what else can we do to help it so that they want to have that baby? That's a fair critique that you brought up.
Yeah, no, you know what? I agree. I have criticized the churches. I said, look, I don't criticize. Look, I try to be an atheist for 2 years. Don't do it.
How'd that
people.
go?
Not very well. It felt great only for like the first 5 minutes of my life.
You like that freedom, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, it was not. And it was all out of pure emotion, not understanding how God operated. And that's just my personal journey with that. And I tried it for 2 years. And I was, that was in the stem of depression on losing my father. So if God, if you're so freaking great, why you let my father die, huh? If you're so freaking, and, but by the time I studied God on my own when I was 18, okay. And then this is when I started gaining enlightenment. It's like, it works into the core of the power within. I was like, you see, there were things I was not paying attention to. And this is why I criticize even the church further. The church education sucks. They didn't teach those a point about prayer, understanding how God works, some of the, I would say, nuances, if you will.
Sure.
That's more like a scientific, secular word about how God works. He can't work. It's just that, I would say it's more like the Wi-Fi, right? We like the Wi-Fi. It works sometimes and we don't. That's our receptibility to God. We got our high bar moments, and we got our very low bar moments, especially when it's inconvenient. But I want to gamble.
Or we want to manipulate him to get what we want, right?
Right. Yeah. That's when that Wi-Fi receptor goes down. But we are open to, his teachings and applying it correctly. Then, of course, that receptor goes up. I'm using that. I think that's related to more the younger people that tend to be more secular, unfortunately. I'm a millennial. I think I was at last somewhat normal generation, some metrics, whatever normal is. I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of secularism, it's been growing among young people. Some even say outright, Jesus doesn't exist. What you're talking about? It's like a fairy tale to them. I say, well, this is why your life is miserable. I know what it's like. I was never a full-blown atheist, but I did use that to shield my anger and misery at the time. So that's just,
Yeah.
I'm saying it briefly. I've said it many times to my listeners and viewers. You know where I stand with that. And look, I don't pretend to be a perfect Christian. Some things I fall real short in. Sometimes I'm too cynical of humanity. That's one way. So, these idiots are never going to learn. God, when are you going to do your revelation and just wipe us all out already?
Let's get out of this.
Yeah, let's get out of this. That's one of my things I have to work on. I'm just being very transparent. No Christian, it's perfect. We all fall short of the glory of God. That's
absolutely.
That's right.
And that's part when you talk, and I think that's fair about the education, and that's why I started this project to help give a biblical basis, but also a worldview basis and a logical. We talk about logic. It's a 5-part module teaching about worldview and about the abortion issue. and with some ideas for hands-on projects with pregnancy centers. And the idea is to get the high school and college age students thinking about this issues and able to have that discussion, able to have that conversation about, wait a second, why it is life, and it is life. And okay, would you abort a baby a day before it was born? Well, of course not. Well, then why would you abort it 3 months before? Yeah. So you have that discussion. Oh, a life is a life. And it's just, I think it's critical for especially those in the church to think about it. But the church does not. Even those churches that'll check the box and say, yes, we're pro-life. Do they talk about it much? Do they preach about it much? Do they teach it much now? So part of this is, and I'll plug the location if it's okay, but it's called prolifeleaders.net. And on the website is all the material. Nobody knows me from Adam. So they can look and see all the material. It's free. You just order it, and the printer charges you to print it and ship it. But I want to take away the excuse that the church is, we'd love to talk about or teach pro-life, but what do we do? Well, here it is. Has the nation's experts on it that I'm quoting and giving all the quotes to. Here's the information, easy to teach with a PowerPoint and videos and hands-on project ideas. So trying to take away the excuse so at least people will look at it in the church and look at the issue, because I think it's an extremely important one that is ignored too much.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And this is a thing with America. I think we become overall snowflakes when it comes to hard issues. If it's too hard, well, we dodge it.
Yes.
And
it is hard. And that's fair.
And, Social Security is another one. That's another third rail. Touch that one. And I say that these two guardrails, I think they favor Dems, the left, if you want to be technical and honest. It favors them more than the Republicans. If they try to muddle with this third rail, they will lose support majorly, and it'll be political suicide for a lot of candidates. And sadly, I would have to agree. And this is why, like Ray said, very below replacement rate, and the demographics are changing significantly. I mean, I'm sure, some of you that want to have children or that, just make sure, I would say, have, and this is why I say add support. I think, what's the saying again? What, proverb? Oh, look at that, using proverb or quote. I'm just using quote because I don't want things to get too mixed up now. That's but proverbs in the Bible. No, I'm not talking about that proverb. I am talking about, it takes a village to actually raise a child. There's truth to that. People are more separated than ever. And this is why child raising, I would say, based on my understanding, even though I don't have a kid yet, is that it's, the parent just sends them to daycare. Both parents work. I think that's a normal work. That's a normal family dynamic in 21st century America. And what does a child know? Just the daycare people, mom and dad, wear rabbit to the grandma, the aunties, the families used to, or even trusted friends used to, help each other. People used to help each other, alleviate burdens. But I just think some people have gotten too self-centered in their tents. They say, oh, I could do it all on my own.
Well, it's community. And what you're talking about is community, and the church is a community. You're talking about the village. It starts with the family. You follow the science. There is no doubt the best thing for a child is to be brought up with a married mother and father. Every data, every secular religion, doesn't matter what, it is incontrovertible. And these studies, these nonsense studies, have finally been put to rest, that came out that children are as well with gay couples as with mother and father, are absolutely untrue. And those studies have knocked down, because you need a mother, you need a father. They bring different things. So that's best. But also having that community, as you talk about, whether it's the church community, the neighborhood community, it goes out. And that's how we're built. We are built for community. And that's why the mental health problem is such an issue, that people sitting looking at their phones, they don't have the community. They're not going to church. And so this is part of what this program, it's talking about pro-life, but it's also a way to get the community together to talk about a big issue that's important.
Yep. This thing right here has done a lot to destroy communities.
There we go.
The weapon of mass distraction.
That's it.
I quote this from I would say, bizarre, but a genius financial teacher. He's the one I got. And this is a class I took at 8 p.m. at night when I was supposed to be tired as heck, but he kept me engaged and interested. So that says a lot about his engagement and his gravitas. This thing has done a lot to do that.
Yeah.
You could make your orders. You could do your chats. You could watch, endless entertainment. Oh, I want to order food. I mean, almost anything. Teach you how to breathe better. Write my ABCs. I mean, something as dumb and simple as that. We have outsourced so much to this phone. It's ridiculous. We are social beings, Paul. I don't care. I sound like a right winger to you. Some issues I want to sound like a left winger. If you when you pay attention to my climate change,
that's how we're built.
I will sound more to the left on that issue because there's things I agree with. I think institutions should be involved. I mean, it would be great if they were more involved and all that. But my biggest criticism is like the right, and I do agree with them to this degree, that money is being wasted, and I think there's smarter ways to go about it. So that little mix right there, I agree with, right? Fiscal conservatism, that's another thing that the national Republicans, let me just say that, let me be clear, because state governor Republicans, I will say they know how to balance a budget. They still remember fiscal responsibility, some of them, but the national ones, that's out the window. There's, the big beautiful bill is just another example.
Everybody wants something.
So they're just having their needs on one, just like the Democrats, different things, but I don't want to be too, all right, let me just get out of the whole, okay, we derailing just a little bit. Blame the host. There you go. Use the comment section. Blame the host for this. I'm fine with that. You should get used to it. Put up or shut up. This is how I operate. Deal with it. Okay? Deal with it. Sue me. Okay? But let's go back to this whole pro-life and abortion, because they just reject a lot of their platform. This is more the criticism of, just like Democrats. Let me just criticize them. They have they have practically abandoned the working class. That's why they're not doing too well either. So that's another thing. That's a big.
Look at the politics in your city.
Yeah, it's pro bank, pro corporate, pro big boss. Screw the little guy. Just saying it, just being brutally honest. All right, no. So you're right about that. I'm not gonna defend New York. There's a lot of things. There's things I love about New York. I have a love-hate relationship with New York. So there's things you criticize. Like, yeah, I agree.
And that's one of the places, that, and this is where, when Roe got overturned, and people would say, well, it made abortion illegal. No, it returned it to the states, which is the fact, which is where it had always been. And New York was one of the first. And I remember Cuomo signed the bill. I mean, look, it is legal to have an abortion up to the point of birth in your state, which is absolutely, it is indefensible, because when they say the life of the mother, just take the baby out. You don't have to kill the baby, which is what you literally have to do. And I remember when New York signed and Cuomo cheered it, and they were lighting up buildings in New York City to celebrate that. It used to be, remember Bill Clinton? We want it to be legal, safe, and rare. It wasn't something, and now you actually will see a celebration of people celebrating their abortions, and it's so twisted in that way. And so when we talk about a split in the nation, that's one of the big issues. To me, how you could not look at, I'll have that discussion with a pro-choicer, but most, they don't celebrate it. They recognize its life. They don't think it's important enough to stop, but to actually go out and celebrate, which is where you are. And let me tell you another. Well, I mentioned at a pregnancy center. I work with the men. We have 4 offices. We just had our first. There's a abortion pill reversal, and because the process now is you take 2 pills for your abortion at home. The first pill starves the baby, and then 48 hours later, you take the second pill to abort it. Well, if you change your mind within 24 hours, as happened here about a little less than a year ago, a woman took the first pill and then said, regretted it, and contacted our medical director, and they actually flood the body with progesterone to bring the nutrients back to the baby. And we just had our first baby born 2 months ago. That was a pill reversal. And to me, you talk about choice, pro-choice. This is the woman's choice. She felt horrible about it, changed it, and now has a baby. But what you have in places like California, they're suing pregnancy centers to not allow them to tell women about the reversal. And I said, you talk about, you don't want the woman to have that choice, but that's that's how rabid so many are, and that's a sad part to me. And you'll find it interesting. I was speaking at a conference in Mississippi, a pro-life summit. I was a speaker, but another speaker was an atheist pro-life. She does not believe in God. She believes in nothing except what you can touch, purely secular, but she is adamant pro-life. She said it's a baby. And it was a fascinating discussion. Now, most pro-lifers are Christians or people of faith, but most Christians, people of faith. Very few are secular. But there is a group out there. And it was a fascinating to have that discussion because she realizes I don't believe in God, but I believe there's a baby in there. and it's wrong to kill the baby. So it's interesting how the issue can be framed, and that's why I started this project, just to help people understand it better.
No, yeah, no, and I am generally for that. I mean, ironically, your organization is more pro-choice and the pro-choice, people, in a sense that, you gave them the education tools and then, okay, here you go. This is, and that's good. Yeah, it's true. That's the hypocrisy of the pro-choice. He was pro-choice, but that's just to tell you, some of them are actually pro-abortion.
Most are. I'll just say
Yeah.
most. Now you've got the folks who will say they're pro-choice, but when you dig a little deeper, and there's a discomfort, and they realize deep down, you told me, I hope you don't mind me saying before we went on, about you saw a video of an abortion and what it did to you, and you've seen blood and guts, and that doesn't bother you. My point is, because in you knew it was a defenseless child being killed, and you were wired by God, and I know a lot of your audience will dispute that with me, but I'll say it's by God, to care and to know and to have that emotion. And that's what you see in some of these abortionists who become Christians, and they realize what they were doing. But here's what's neat: our pastor Eric Hankins, he gives a lot of pro-life sermons, and he's never once done one where he hasn't said, there are people here in this audience who've had an abortion, who have supported women having abortion, and remember the blood of Christ covers all sin, including that. And I think that's important, to remember the grace and to have that connection. So that's the idea of having the connection, and that's why I started the project, so we can have that conversation, but so that high school and college students can be prepared to be able to have a meaningful discussion to counter the pro-abortion message. And it's called Students in Action, Building Pro-Life Leaders.
Yep. And let's see. Maybe in a couple of years you'll see a tide change. We'll see. But as of now, it's looking bleak. I'm just
going the other way. You're right.
Yeah. If anything, it's going more. The pro-abortion people have, they have made gains, and even some red states. So I think Ohio is a good example.
Yeah, look, we went 0 for 7 in a row, and even Kansas and Ohio putting it in. It's a political loser. Is there no better proof than that? Absolutely.
No, yeah, not to bash Republic, but this is just how much momentum it has gotten. I think I think we already touched on this, why it's so emotional, because all I could just say for the woman, they just feel like their right to be taken away. Like they don't have I gotta defend abortion, also I don't have a choice. Maybe, I could be wrong. And of course there's a lot of political capital just to defend a certain perspective of that. Oh, and votes and all of that, especially the Republicans that back away from it, and the Democrats that push it, and especially the more and even some of the progressive ones. So and it does, and that emotion just drives some people to vote. I mean, emotions are being used to drive votes on certain issues, like abortion is one of them. Even though they went nationally, even because Trump was pushing that, and Trump just he was sort of for it, and then he just backed off completely.
There's no core there. He's not. No, he used what's ever politically expedient, and we see where it is now. Yep. Yeah, and he's not alone. He's not alone.
Oh no, he's definitely not alone. And this is, of course, I'm saying to the right. The Democrats already know where you're at. You're simple. Yeah, just generally pro-choice. Okay, the end. Not much interesting discussion there. If it's just that, and I don't mind you using that story, because that's the new one. I didn't talk about that one, about how the baby's guts was just torn to shreds, and it was so defenseless. And rarely, I'm just hardened and seeing violence. I haven't seen Death Note. I just walk right over it. It's just he was nonchalantly said to God, well, I hope this person makes it to heaven. I know that's your call. And not being moved by, but just the baby being destroyed was
Defenseless,
just,
absolutely defenseless.
oh,
And that's what
damn.
it's hard to defend, I believe. So that's why it's important to be able to know how to engage and to ask those questions. What are we talking about? When does it become a human? You don't think it's a human right away, you know? So again, I say follow the science, and that's why it's important. And that's one of the things we talk about in the program.
Oh, we definitely triggering the left of this episode.
Yeah.
And half my audience, I would say,
I know,
more
it's
secular.
a good mix. That's why I appreciate you come out and talk about it. Half of them are banging on the computer now. I know.
This is not a safe space. I give that warning. I'm going to bring all kinds of people. It's more like a deck of cards. I want to shuffle. We're going to come next.
Can I give my email so they can cook? Because I want to hear from them.
Sure. Go ahead.
And it's real easy. It's info at prolifeleaders.net. So it comes right to me, info at prolifeleaders.net. I want to hear from you, and from both sides. I'd love to hear from some who might want to teach the course or follow more information, but I'd love to hear from them and engage, because I think it's important to engage, and we don't do enough of that. We yell at each other, but we don't get to know each other and engage. I think that's important.
No, I agree with that. We really don't just shout, oh, you want to keep the rapist's baby, or you're a murderer. Yeah, so much name calling, so much verbal muds being sung at each other. Just to use a little nicer example, normally I like to use machine guns or rockets and nukes and all that. That's what we're doing verbally. We shoot, blow things up, and ask questions later. If we got enough mental fortitude and just energy fortitude just to do that. And that is not guaranteed. Let's just be absolutely clear.
Look, you have to, it takes work to engage and to listen and to shut up and listen. And that's one of the things I teach in the course is, and they'll see it, how to engage is to ask questions. Don't just ask questions. What do you mean by that? That's a big question, by the way. I ask, what do you mean by that? Just so we have our definitions, because we assume things, right? But what do you mean by that? Okay, so this is what you mean. So that's part of what they're learning, is how to engage, because it's not easy, especially if the topics are controversial. But goodness, we're human beings. We're Americans. Let's talk.
Yeah, we should learn how to talk. So just cancel culture, safe space, which I'm strongly against. I will oppose that.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's
and this is where I'm gonna bash both sides of the aisle when it comes to cancel culture, safe spaces. Yeah, both have done it. I would say the right is a little more creative and slick about it. That's why sometimes they get away with it. The left is pretty open and stupid about it. Oh, we don't want this person canceled, banned, all of that.
Well, and the universities, look, they control the universities, and that's where it was going crazy. And
yeah,
right, and they don't allow people. Yeah, that term snowflakes, I always thought that was, but wasn't that sad? Because, all right, by the time they're at college, they're feeling that way. That meant they weren't challenged at home. They weren't challenged in the neighborhood. And this is the kind of topic you couldn't, it would be a trigger warning if you were pro-life, so it's just a little crazy, but hopefully we can at least get to that part where we can discuss and have that conversation. And I hope maybe change some people's lives. And babies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Especially the little ones, and look, America, I know it's financially tough. I get it. What I would suggest is put more pro-village, pro-people support. I would say that to alleviate that. I don't care if it's government. I don't care if it's government funded or private funded. We got to get something started, or community. I think community would be more ideal, right?
That's the best. The closer, and I know a lot of your listeners won't like Newt Gingrich, and he's gone off the edge on some things. But I thought one of his key points, he said, "What is best is government closest to the people," and I think that's the closer it is. Your councilman, you can go knock on the door rather than the congressman and all. And I think that's true. And I think we've abandoned that a little bit. We kind of focus everything on Washington. Let's bring it closer to home.
Oh, true. And especially big cities, it's even more difficult. So let me just bash, New York City.
Bureaucracy, big, slow moving.
Yeah, it takes forever to get a response. It might be dead by the time you get a response.
Yeah, that's what they hope for. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Oof, a cynic against government. I'm sometimes a cynic against government. So I got my, when it comes to government, I'm definitely not the most pro-government person, but I'm also not the most, radical, abolish the government kind of person
No,
either.
but it
I
can
just,
do things better. And
yeah,
more
no,
things you can bring closer
yeah,
to home, the better it
yeah,
is.
I agree.
You know? Yeah.
No, I agree.
So,
I know. I totally agree. There's a lot of criticism for the government for sure. I'm not going to be those diehard people that defend government no matter what, even if it's using 1980s computers and all that and have outdated nonsense and
yeah.
take forever to do it, and have so much vacations too to get paid well. That should be fair criticism right there. That's another thing to bureaucracy. Oh, 5 weeks off during summer. While everybody else got to grind and work. And I do agree with those criticisms. Some of them come from left because they're part of the loser camp right now.
Yeah.
Barely
More
in the loser
entrenched.
camp.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's it. Well, look at that. We end up talking about government and all that. So let me give a pretty challenging question. We already know about those who done the abortion successfully. They go through regret. What about those who don't? How do we respond to those who actually done it? You debate them or have a conversation with them. They don't regret it. Says the best thing that ever happened to me.
I think, and this is what I've seen. Again, I work at a pregnancy center. I don't work with women. I work with the men who come in, but I work with the counselor, including one who had an abortion as a teenager and is now working in the pro-life community. And I can tell you, I know some others of this. First of all, you've heard from the pro-choice, pro-abortion that there's no evidence of psychological harm. That's absolutely untrue. It's also true, however, that most, and this is what the studies have shown, of that psychological harm comes decades later, comes 10, 20, 30, 40, where it comes up. And in fact, there's a whole process in a study that our medical center does, pregnancy center, with post-abortive women to walk through. It's a year long, and it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. And so those, especially the young ones who's had it, say, hey, everything's fine, everything's fine. I can almost guarantee, just based on the studies I've seen, and that we're talking decades down the road, it's not going to be fine. So you're going to have to deal with it. And so that's where the grace comes through. That's where the blood of Christ comes through. That's where the holding the arms and holding hands and being with and just remembering and praying for it, because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. And that's just a fact for almost all. And just talking with the counselors I have and the people who've been through it, that's universal. So, because the realization, it's a human being.
That's a very good answer. And like I said, I normally don't throw a tough one in there, but I'm just very curious to know. This is out of my personal curiosity. Yeah, I can throw it. I mean, some of you can even frame it as a attempt to gotcha. That's fine with me. I really don't care, but I'm just trying to understand how you deal with
Yeah,
those.
that's a fair question. It's a fair question.
I could have just done unfair. I could have started just unfairly saying, look, you stupid barbaric Christians, what's wrong with you letting these women carry these unwanted fetuses?
Yeah,
What's wrong?
yeah.
Do you have any compassion? That would have started off very unfair. Coming in there with my premises, I tend to be, I would say, pretty fair-minded person. I got my opinions for sure. Like I said, I will lean definitely more on overall, if I take the quiz, I think I'm 80%, 70, I'll say worst case scenario, 70 to 80% pro-life.
All right. Well, we'll keep working on you and get you to 100. How's that?
Hey, I welcome the challenge.
There we go. I love it. Hey, you're giving me a platform, and I appreciate that. I sure do.
I don't mind the challenge because I could have just done the woke snowflake thing. Oh no, cancel Mr. Kellogg. He's a spy for the big cereal company, and he's trying to spread Christian nationalism and all this garbage. No, I mean, I could have done that just for giggles, just for fun of it, but no, I don't do that. I don't believe in that. I got left wingers, right wingers, people in the center.
I know.
I got
You got a good
libertarians,
mix, which is fun. That's neat.
No,
not a lot have
like
that. Usually they have their tribe, You've got the mix, so that's cool.
Yeah, no, I try to form my own tribe. Critical thinkers, try to be freedom of choice. I'm trying to practice what I preach it. Easier said than done, believe me.
Fair.
Easier said than done. Especially the 1A. I think I have compromised a few times on that. Man, you could call me out on the comment section right there. That's a little activity right there, especially for the haters. But what do you think? This is a serious comment activity. I always like to throw these based on recent episodes. What camp do you think you are, and why? Are you in pro-life? I'm gonna give 3 options. Pro-choice. If you're gonna take that word literally, it's really the moderate choice. Or you are pro-abortion. California, I would safe to say it's a pro-abortion state. For the most, except for the conservative counties, maybe there's some debate, some gray muddle
New York,
there.
Colorado too. Yeah.
So overall, it's pro-abortion. The fact that you're trying to not have free markets or different choices, especially reverse abortion pills, I think it's ludicrous, in my honest opinion. That's just me bashing California politics.
By the way, I'm scheduled to give a pro-life talk in California in September.
Well, I will
about this program. We'll see if it goes through, but we'll see. But hey, I hope.
I pray for you for the divine protection. Yeah, I'm definitely curious. I mean, keep going. I'm just too excited here. I rarely get this excited because look, he's walking straight to the battlefield. He's going to have pitchforks, bullets, nut jobs. And this is all, some of it literal. Let's be clear. Some of it's literal. Bobby,
you always make that clear. I like that.
No, because some people don't get it. Some people that's stupid. I hate to say it. They're
figurative speaking.
No, I'm going literal. I'm doubling down on that one with the stupid comment. No, I'm doubling down on that. For those of you who got a brain, you should be offended. You're exempt for this insult. And yet you're exempt. You're passed. You get a waiver. But if you got low IQ, please be offended. Please leave my podcast. I personally don't need you. I don't. I want people to have a thoughtful discussion. I don't care what opinion you have. That's not my thing. It's how you go about it. If you're going to be a rabid moron, even in the pro-life thing, being a rabid moron, and then, or, doesn't matter what can't be comfortable. But if you're going to be a rabid moron, just shooting off the mouth or just yelling, acting like a nut job, I don't care where can't be coming from, then you're the problem. You are the problem. Okay, I don't care if you're pro-life, pro-choice, pro-whatever. Or, I don't know, or just pro-chopping organs up. There you go. Let's just go a little extra graphic. Pro-experimenting on people. Oof, even you want to get extra gruesome? I could get gruesome. All right, let me calm down the dark side. Calm down. I'm trying to behave here. So I'm getting off the rails here. All right, let me calm down. All right, so, but you get the point, people. You get the point. Despite the little hyperbolic that comes out of my mouth, but you get the point, though. If we both was not productive adults, I could easily stretch this for another hour based on so much stuff that we talked about. And it's actually some good stuff. I really did enjoy this conversation.
Appreciate that.
Let's see. Would I become 100% pro-life?
You'll let me know. And if you don't mind, if I could let the folks know, they can just check out the website. Pro-Life Leaders, all one word, prolifeleaders.net, and info@prolifeleaders.net. They can send me an email, and I appreciate it. Just check it out for yourself. Everything's there. You can check it out all yourself.
No, absolutely. He beat me to it. This is a shameless plug-in, and let me just add the social media. So that's perfectly fine with me. I go with the flow. People are different. I don't mind, and it actually makes my job a little easier. So he got his social medias. He got the most professional LinkedIn, and then he got Facebook and YouTube. All right, check those out as well. And you already got his email as well. And just make sure you don't go there. Check it out. Don't be a stiff-necked bigot. A real bigot is just someone who just refuses to engage with different opinions. Okay, that's a real definition of a bigot. Not just because the left use it. Trust me, some of them are bigots on the left too. Yeah, there's some bigots on the right. I agree with that, but it's also some on the left as well. Both of them they're not pure on that one. And I would say I am rarely a bigot, maybe except for my food choices. Now I don't mind being called a bigot. I'll be fine with that. I will live. It's okay. It's just a stupid word at the end of the day. So prolifeleaders.net, check it out. Especially if, for those of you who are pro-life, who are feeling bleak and hopeless, well, got a champion right here who's willing to go to the hell fields of California. Okay, so that there you go, right there. I mean, do I need to prop him up, bring a better promo? No,
There we go.
because he's doing the maybe is so crazy that it just might work. And you know what? God does operate like that
I know.
sometimes.
I'm
It's
taking
not
the
always my
opportunity.
logic or strategy. That's how I like to operate. That's why sometimes me and God got an argument, you know, but, and you know, that is contradict, you know, don't go by your own understanding. So I got a hard time with that because of logic and strategy. I'm being honest with myself. And that's what me and God have that debate. So really, oh, it doesn't make sense. It's so stupid. It makes sense. This is why you need to have faith. Go walk by faith, not by sight.
No.
A lot of us go by
It's
sight.
not blind.
Oh, no. I'm sure you was clear about that. Oh, because you know what happens when you walk blind. You're going to bump into all kinds of things and you might die. Okay. But you know, you know this, people. My listeners and viewers, you're smart people. I don't care where you're at the world, your politics, your gender, even your sexual orientation. You know, this is primarily affects heterosexual couples mostly, even though I think some LGBTQ ones are involved with that as well. Particularly, I'll say the more lesbian, you know, guy on guy, whatever. I'm sure abortion affects them too. Not as much as straight people, because there's a lot more straight people than them. That's just a numerical statistic. It's not me being mean. These are facts. Would I call for gay people to be murdered? Hell no. I don't do that. I don't do that. And try to be God operated, I would not do that. But, you know, I will point certain things out in the Bible once we develop that rapport, of course. I'm not going to just do it right away, because doing it right away is what creates the conflicts. I think you have to be a bit strategic. That's just my opinion. But who am I? I'm just a guy with a podcast who likes to yell my smart opinions to you at a computer. Okay. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Anything else you want to add, Stuart, before we wrap
That's
this
it.
up?
Thank you, Alliance, for allowing me to have this opportunity to talk to your audience, just to share, and I hope have sparked maybe a little conversation. And I hope they'll check out the website prolifeleaders.net and look at it for themselves.
Yep. I'm about exploring, expanding around, you know, expanding your horizons, people. Why I can't stand, and this is why I probably discriminate, stiff-necked people, because you're not going to drag me down with your stupidity. I refuse to be dragged down with
There
that.
we go.
Not by race, not by even sexual orientation, any of that stuff. I try to be like Martin Luther King, judge by character. I try to be, at least. Do I always do it right? There's cases, but I try. I'm work in progress. That's all I can say. So now for this podcast shameless plug-in, this is how you know we're about to end this. Like, comment, subscribe for YouTube and Rumble viewers. And, you know, and give a review at Apple Podcasts only. Those are only reviews I'm paying attention to. I don't care about Spotify. If you do it on Spotify, I will ignore you. If you don't pay attention to instructions, I don't care what you think. All right. Unless you're giving me a check or money somehow. Then I will be, then I feel obligated to do a couple of things. Okay. It's called contract. But it depends what kind of contract. If it's certain nonsense, I will not do it either. Some, you know, and will be a good thing of nonsense. Promote woke language. No, not from this guy. I don't give a rat's behind by the woke ideology language. I think it's stupid, and you could support some good left-wing causes without that stupid language that just divides people. It causes massive confusion, especially the word Latinx. One of the dumbest things they invented, in my honest opinion. And no, I'm not the most right wing person, but I am very anti woke language. Can I be woke in a sense that you're aware, you know what's better for you? Be woke to God. There you go. Let me just do it that way. Woke to God, meaning more sensitive and aware what God wants. Yeah, I will support that. That's probably an exception right there. If you mix the two together, maybe that will work. Some of you may react cringe. I don't care. You know what? I think be more sensitive to God, which I'm slowly but surely getting there. I do pay attention to my gut more often. And, you know, and sometimes you talk to people who don't look all up there, but they're very rational. And then there's those who look put together. They're sadistic demons. They don't got it all together. You can't always judge by looks, people. That's my mini random tidbit, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Okay, let me wrap this up. I'm taking forever. Now, if you want to complain in the comment section, go right ahead. Do that. Okay, so oh, and also if you have some green, the smallest tier donation is $3. You have your custom emotes, and you will most definitely get a shout out. I mean, you might get a random shout out if you've been, obviously, a great guest who has shaped me on shape before. I will mention you a future episode. So, you know what? For example, if I talk to someone who is more pro-choice, I do know some pro-choice people say, you know what? Stuart Kellogg did bring up a good point about bam, 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 bam. Challenge them a little bit, and once I get to know you, I will be more challenging little by little. I just don't do it. I believe it just being challenging right off the bat. Except for one, trying to promote, I think, non-romantic love in Bronx. So I good luck with that. I don't think that's gonna work. But hey, he loved the challenge, and I said, I'm just gonna warn you, I'm gonna be very skeptical right off the bat. I was raised in the Bronx, and let's just say the love is different. We're rough around the edges, or we're not that we're not friendly or anything, but it takes time for us to warm up because we're more, I would say, guarded. Just to put it nicely, okay. And we are definitely rough around the edges, okay. And I mean, that's generally New York, but I think Bronx just adds a little extra layer to that. He welcomed the challenge. I like people who welcome the challenge. I like it. And I try to emulate that too. Okay. All right. This is where you should type shut up. So now I'm going to really wrap this up. When you're done listening to this journey or watching this journey, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.